Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd. Hey everyone, this is Stacey Dredd, your Galactic Ambassador in the Cosmic Community. That's our astrology program here every Tuesday, 4:30 to 5 p.m., where we discuss the week's planetary and lunar influences, how the energies may be felt within our day-to-day, and also how we may be able to use the energies and live within the cycles of the universe to create a more benevolent life for all. So thank you so much for making time and space in your day-to-day to receive these messages and to come here and be part of the community. I just want to give a little shout out to Rhoda for being out in the front office today. Thank you. You are a amazing person to have up front because you have so many years experience with KPOV. So thanks for representing, and happy 53rd anniversary to you and Tire Biter this year. That's amazing. The astrology for the week is busy. We have officially really truly reached the moment where things are going to start shifting, and we're going to be feeling and moving into new cycles and creating new momentum and working with some new energy. So I'm definitely glad to be here and to be presenting, giving the information about the astrology so that you can know what types of energies are available for you, for yourself this week, whatever goals you're working on, things you're trying to manifest in your life. You know, that's what the study of astrology can help with. So we work within the cycles, and to not fight against the energies, but to actually work with them and use them. So this is the week when we are going to be leaving the month of February. I bring this report to you on the last day of February, the 28th. And just kind of going back a step, last night we had, well, actually, if you were out looking into the sky, you could see that we had, again, one of those Moon-Mars conjunctions where the moon actually moved over the top of Mars last month. It was practically a full moon that we had. That was a very intense moment. Mars is the planet that is our warrior spirit. Mars represents fire, making things happen, direct motion. This is the energy when we can really do things. I mean, Mars brings physical action where he goes. And so Mars meeting the moon being the mood that is presented to us for the day, the moon in Gemini, and Mars still in the shadow phase from his last retrograde. So what this means for us, is that we have been trying to regain some momentum. Mars being retrograde really slows down the physical body. And the moon and Mars made a conjunction last night. They came together, Mars then triggering the moon, and the moon triggering Mars when they come together. The moon is our feelings, our emotions, and Mars being that warrior spirit. So we could have been feeling, and still, this was just last night. So these energies are still, within the realm. And so, things just feeling a little extra fiery, possibly over the last couple of days, maybe feeling a little extra irritable. That's also a Mars-Moon conjunction thing, because it brings out the emotions that Mars carries with it. And Mars is not very patient. Mars likes to just do things and to actually not even think about them first. Mars likes to do things and think about them later. And Mars is the ruling planet of Aries. So I'm describing really a lot of those ruling energies of the sign of Aries. And this week we have that was my segue moving into this week. We have a lot of action in the sign of Aries. Aries has right now Jupiter. Let me pull up my chart here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chart for Wednesday on astroseek.com. That's astro-seek.com. And pull up the chart for Wednesday, because Wednesday holds some big energy for the week. This is the day when the planet of Venus and the planet of Jupiter are going to come together in the sign of Aries. Jupiter right now, or on Wednesday, will be at about 12 degrees of Aries. And of course, Venus will be coming into that 12-degree point also. So if you're familiar with your birth chart, your natal birth chart, you can look and see where 12 degrees of Aries lies for you. You know, what house is that in? What area of life is this going to kind of be initiating and sparking this energy in? Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is all about new beginnings and fresh starts and creating new things, trying new things, being bold. Confidence comes along with the sign of Aries. And so this big energy this week, it's really gripping us within the emotions, that are held within the planet of Mars, kind of this irritability, kind of this, we kind of want things faster than like they're happening right now. And Mars, as I was mentioning, a lot of different facets to this. Mars has been in retrograde, moving pretty slowly, reviewing things from the past and not able to really move forward. And it's not a time that Mars is most comfortable. Mars is most comfortable moving forward all the time into new, fresh ground, as the sign of Aries, represents. And so a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of irritability, right now, just because of these kind of overlying energies. And going back to the sign of Aries and what we have going on there and why the energies are so strong this week. On Wednesday, it happens in the evening on the Pacific coast of the United States. But on March 1st, we have a conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. Venus is the planet of love. Venus is the planet of pleasure and all of the things that give us pleasure, good food, good music, arts, beautiful things, soft fabrics. And Venus also represents money. Venus represents money and the flow of money, and maybe money coming into our lives, money flowing out of our lives, how we deal with money. Wherever Venus is in your birth chart is going to show sort of the lens that you see your financial situation through. If you are if you have Venus in a really good sign in your birth chart, then you might be, you might have more better flow of money. If Venus is in sort of a more challenged spot, then a person may have more challenges with money over the course of their life. Would be one way alone to read where Venus sits in your birth chart in terms of like how you deal with money in your life. Well, Venus coming into a conjunction with Jupiter on March 1st. Jupiter is the planet that expands everything. Of course, Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. Jupiter is kind of a hog. Jupiter takes it all up, and is actually, I was listening to, I believe it was Molly McCord. She's one of the astrologers that I listen to, but she was talking all about how, it was on Astrology Hub. It was the Monday post that they had about the astrology of the week on Astrology Hub. And it was a new astrologer that I wasn't familiar with, a woman. I can't think of her name right now, but she was talking about how she's like a big science nerd and likes to watch the Nova series on OPB. And I'm that same science nerd that watches all the planetary, all the space, everything on Nova and OPB. I love it. And she was talking about how Jupiter is like a big hog, but in like a really good way. Jupiter does represent good luck in astrology. Everywhere that Jupiter goes, it seems like there is good luck that comes that way because Jupiter expands everything. Jupiter is also a huge planet and protects us here on the planet of Earth from other things flying around space that could possibly come and smash into our planet. We owe Jupiter a lot of thanks because of this. And in this way, we're glad that Jupiter is kind of a hog in our solar system, right? So it's interesting the way that you look at things. I mean, we could say that being a hog, is being greedy is like kind of a bad thing, but also we're really glad in this case that Jupiter is super, super greedy about gobbling up those asteroids out there and sucking them in with the gravity of that giant planet in our solar system. So, Jupiter, big, big energy and carries with it expansion, opportunity. Everywhere that Jupiter goes, there is opportunity to be found. This conjunction between Venus and Jupiter happens late in the evening, 9:36 on March 1st. And, this could be really great or it could be a little over the top. Sometimes Jupiter brings a little too much energy, a little too much light. And in the sign of Aries, we have a kind of irritable, energy anyways with Mars, not quite out of the retrograde. So, this could go different ways, like I said, depending on especially where 12 degrees of Aries is in your birth chart, how this is going to play out. Close by, and another part of this story for this week is that we do have Chiron. Chiron is the planet of our immortal wounds. Chiron relates to our health. And so Chiron is at 14 degrees right here, just a couple of degrees away from this very powerful conjunction with Venus and Jupiter. Very much going to be affected and in play here. So it could be something to do with our health. It could be some amazing, expansive, loving healing that goes on. It could be a financial burden that finally explodes and goes over the top also. So, you can kind of see how, working with those energies, how you could sort of go about, how you could go about it. Very interesting. This is, of course, a passing energy as Venus will continue over the top of Jupiter, over the top of Chiron, and continue on and be out of the sign of Aries before we even know it, which is a good thing because Venus is a little out of place in Aries. It's a bit of a hot sign for her. So she gets into Taurus soon, and that's her home sign. So she's going to be much happier there very soon. 4444444 all over my clocks here. This is Stacy Dredd, your galactic ambassador in the cosmic community. Just want to mention that there is a rebroadcast of this program Saturdays at 9 a.m. following One-on-One with Raider Mystic, preceding Pearl's Storyland, and the 2 hours of The Coop with Tristone, reggae music on Saturday mornings. So if you, have a chance to catch that on Saturdays instead of Tuesdays, it'll be the same program. And I very much appreciate, open ears and the opportunity to spread the word of astrology further. You also can follow me on the Cosmic Community Astrology on YouTube and on Facebook. So getting back to the week's astrology, I talked all about that interplay in Aries. This is big energy for the week, and it's definitely coloring everything. There is a secondary energy at play here. I was sort of mentioning a couple weeks ago how we have these conversations between these planets happening, and then there was planets approaching other planets, and lots of conversations between two planets going on. And so this is a week where we're actually seeing that come into fruition with Venus conjuncting Jupiter, and then also Mercury conjuncting Saturn. Mercury and Saturn are both in the sign of Aquarius. I've talked a lot about Aquarius because Saturn has been there for 2.5 years. And we've been working with the lessons that Saturn is trying to teach us as it moves through the sign of Aquarius. Saturn is our down-to-earth energy. This is like the reality check of the solar system. Saturn is very much the father figure, creates rules and boundaries, and is a little more of a serious energy, likes to take care of business and be responsible, take accountability for our own actions. And so Saturn is an interesting one to look at in your birth chart. If you, are interested and you have no idea what I'm talking about, a birth chart, you have your own blueprint of where the planets were the moment that you were born, and you can calculate that online. There are endless websites that would provide you with a free birth chart to download, and then you would have basically the map to yourself that you could then use to, judge how these energies that move through are going to kind of affect you based on the birth chart. And those, that's really a map of the different facets of yourself, the different planets and what they represent within the human psyche in terms of astrology, So it's really interesting. And if you want to access a birth chart and you're having trouble, please just send me a quick email, thecosmiccommunity@kpov.org. I can help you to get that because it really enhances the way that these reports can be used in life. So Saturn is a really interesting one in your birth chart. It can show you sort of how you deal with your responsibilities. How responsible are you? Are you, do you have a debilitated Saturn? Do you have trouble with responsibilities? Or are you like a really overly responsible person who has Saturn in like a really responsible place in the birth chart? It's really interesting to see. And of course, if you have conjunctions, with other planets or other aspects, it only plays into it. So it's interesting. Saturn and Mercury, though, coming into this conjunction this week at the very last degrees of Aquarius. This is basically a goodbye from Mercury to Saturn, because the next time Mercury comes around, we're going to have another conjunction between the two planets, but Saturn's going to be in Pisces, and this conjunction is going to happen in Pisces. So we've been having these conversations between Mercury and Saturn every year in Aquarius, and this one is sort of the goodbye conversation. We've been with Saturn and Aquarius dealing with responsibilities of groups, organizations of people coming together and organizing to create awakenings, change, momentum. These are all things that Aquarius represent. And when you have Saturn moving through, that's like people wanting to take responsibility for those things. And so, we've heard a lot about personal freedoms and, revelation over the last 2.5 years. Saturn is about to leave the sign of Aquarius next week. So this is like the last opportunity to have this conversation, and something big could come out, because it could be kind of it's that last talk. It's like, this is my last chance to do this, to say this, to be this. Saturn takes 35 years to get around the zodiac. Mercury only a year or less. But these conversations change when they change signs. So this is going to be an interesting sort of. It could be kind of a wild card energy, because it's going to be based on the last 2.5 years of this Saturn cycle and the things that are left, and this last degree, what's going to come out, what's going to happen. I think there is a little bit of curiosity, definitely, in the greater astrology community for these last degrees of signs. When you have planets in the 29th degree of any sign, it's the last chance summer dance, baby. It's like you gotta get it when the getting's good, if you know what I mean. And so, Pluto is hanging out at the last degree of Capricorn, 29.5 degrees. We are going to see Pluto shift into Aquarius very soon, within the next couple of weeks. Of course, Pluto will then retrograde back into Capricorn. We'll be having all these discussions again until Pluto then gets to move direct and move back into the sign of Aquarius early in the spring of 2024. So we're not done, with these conversations, but there seems to be a little bit of a hot point here this week as Mercury and Saturn come into a conjunction in the last degree of Aquarius, which is going to then trigger the last degree of every sign. And we have Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, which, is feeling like kind of a popping point also. So then another thing that sort of draws in more of this energy on Friday, March 3rd, that just to go back for a second, that conjunction between Mercury and Saturn happens at 6:34 in the morning on March 2nd. And then soon after in the afternoon, just before 3 o'clock on March 2nd, Mercury is going to be then ingressing, moving into the sign of Pisces and starting new conversations there. So again, a passing energy. But on Friday, the moon is going to, the moon being our mood, being our emotions, the moon is going to be directly across in the zodiac from Pluto. The Pluto that we were just talking about is like ready to pop, it's ready to move on, ready to let go. Pluto represents the death and the rebirth cycle. Pluto is the most subtle energy, as it's like way out there, but creates the overall sort of zeitgeist of the times, if you will. Pluto takes 15 to 20 years to go through a sign. So really sort of colors that time period with whatever sign, he's been in. So Capricorn is a very serious, ambitious sign. Pluto's been doing a lot of ambitious work over the last 15, 20 years while in the sign of Capricorn, and is like probably a little exhausted of that and ready to be moving on with some new energies. And the moon coming into an opposition is what it's called when they're directly opposed each other in the zodiac wheel. The moon is going to be showing us how we feel about it. The moon shows us how we feel about everything when it comes into aspects with other planets and parts of the chart. And so Thursday, Friday are definitely kind of the more touch and go days. I can see those being sort of the wild card days. Those are the days where it really becomes important how we use those energies, right? Because things are going to happen in our life no matter what, and it'd be nice if we could be like a kind of conscious about it, and realize that we ourselves have roles to play and are accountable. If we do understand that these energies are out there, then we are accountable for how we move through them. So we sort of choose wisely, as we do this. And so this moon and Pluto opposition, that could be like a hot moment this is kind of early in the morning, really on Friday, but it could kind of color the morning. You wake up on Friday just not really knowing why you're like ready to let go of everything in your life. You're like ready to pop. It's just very much a passing energy with the moon opposing Pluto. And then on Sunday, March 5th, we have the moon opposing Saturn. So coming around the zodiac, showing us how we feel about that last degree of Aquarius, where Saturn is sitting too. And moving into next week, I mentioned that big movement of Saturn into Pisces happens next week. That's early in the morning on Tuesday, March 7th. So that is on the day of the full moon in Virgo. I'm going to be talking more about that next week and getting into how Saturn acts in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is a very devoted, dreamy, empathic energy, which is much different than Aquarius. So we'll be shifting themes, shifting focuses here next week, and I'll be coming to you on the full moon in Virgo, which is always exciting for me to be in the studio on these hot ticket days. So thanks so much for listening, and I hope this was helpful for you. If you need to listen to the program, you can listen to the archive at kpov.org on the Cosmic Community show page, the rebroadcast on Saturday at 9 a.m., or catch it on YouTube at the Cosmic Community Astrology. Would love your subscription there. Thank you, and have a lovely day and a really good week. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.